This time I wanted to talk about the archiving of different files and file types. Many people have heard of the default WinZip program that usually comes packaged with Windows nowadays. There are other programs that will do the job just as well and better, in fact. The first of these that I wanted to talk about is WinRAR. Simply typing in its name into the Google search bar anywhere in particular, or you can just go to their website. Will take you there. And on the download site, the version that you would probably want to use, instead of clicking the first English version here, which is a trial version actually, you want to scroll down into the language versions and find English near the top, English 4.10, and when you've installed it, you'll see that it doesn't necessarily act like a normal program. Instead, it will just extract itself to the program files and will be able to function from there. It will also incorporate itself into the right-clicking context menu, so from that point on, when you right-click on things, you'll be able to see a number of commands that are related to WinRAR. For example, you can see the options here. By default, these will be checked as well as these. You can add or remove these as you like. For now, I'm just going to keep them as it is. These are the different file types that you can use to make WinRAR the default opening program. And notice that zip is included in here. And so I'm going to click OK. This is done. WinRAR itself is a free program, although if you continue to use it, they will occasionally pester you to buy or donate money or buy their full version. I've used it for a number of years without actually having to pay for it, so if you're just willing to put up a little nagging window, you will be able to use it as much as you'd like. Another program that you can use to archive things is 7-Zip. This one is another similar archiver that will incorporate itself into the context menu as well. You can download it from its main site as well, and I have it in the installers here. And it will also automatically install itself to C program files. This one will add itself to the registry, so if you were to go to the add removes programs command in the control panel or in CCleaner, you would see 7-Zip listed on there. WinRAR should also be listed in there. Now it tells you that it wants to reboot. I'm not going to do that. This is just so that it can update the context menu with the 7-Zip installers. You can see when I right click on something that 7-Zip and its context menus are right there. Now I've edited the context menu for WinRAR so it doesn't show all 7 options. Instead it just has these 2. And if I actually click on an archive with the WinRAR icon, you can see that it has a number of others for extraction as well as adding to an archive. The last of the archivers that I wanted to mention is a little bit difficult to find, but typing in data compression programs by Matt Mahoney will bring you Matt Mahoney's site, which is mattmahoney.net, and he has a number of different sites, one of which is actually older than the other. And so clicking on his site, you can see, for instance, this is data compression programs, but he says that this page is no longer maintained. The newest version can be found at mattmahoney.net.dc or /dc. Clicking on that will bring you to a similar page, but it has been updated. And what you're looking for is Pack 8, which is very slow, but as he says, is the best compression on many benchmarks, as I'll demonstrate later. This is actually quite true. It is quite slow, but it is extremely worthwhile. If you are pressed for space, this will compress files, even those that are not normally compressible by other programs. So if I click on Pack 8, it will take me down to that category. Now if you wanted to, you could use his version, which is Pack 8 version L. He is no longer maintaining it, and in order to use it, you have to use a command line to be able to decompress and compress files. However, someone was nice enough to include a more recent version. Clicking on this link here, which you can see here is as of 2010. This FP8_version 1, if you click on it, it will take you to a downloader, or it will offer to download it, and that is this FP8_version 1 zip here. So I'm going to choose to right click on it and extract to a folder of the same name. Thank you to WinRAR. This option will allow you to extract something to a folder of the same name as the archive. And this way you can be able to avoid extracting multiple files to the same area and having it clutter up things when you first extract them. You can see that I have numbers of different file types, folders full of each. The catch to using the fp8_version1 version of pack8 simply means that you would have to make a shortcut to the executable and then drag and drop something onto it, as is mentioned here in the installation notes. So I'm going to right click on it, choose copy, go back up, and I'm going to choose create shortcut, or paste shortcut, and I'm going to move it into files first, where here you can see I have already started with a basic file. You can see it is 10.6 megabytes here, or if you look here, 10.94. If I were to compress this into a zip folder, you can see that it would be 4.603. I'm going to right click and use details for this. This is a very handy option, by the way, to be able to choose view, go to thumbnails, icons, list, details, etc. Details will show me different facts about the files as well as just showing them in a list. You can see here, if I arrange them by size, the FP8 is the smallest of all of them, beginning from a 10 meg file. The zip is the largest by far. The file 1, which is a RAR, if you right click on a file that's supported by WinRAR, you can actually see an archive tab, which will show you the total amount of data compression. So if I compare the RAR to the zip, you will see the archive for the zip is a 42%, and for the RAR it is 37%. However, the 7-zip version is almost just as compressed. You can see it's 3.43. This one for the RAR is 3.97, so each one is decreasing by almost half a megabyte. Now, it doesn't seem much, but considering that's a proportion of a 10 megabyte file, and the end result of the FP8 version is 30% of its original size, you can compress a CD-sized amount of data to approximately 10 to 20 to 30 megabytes, depending on the types of files. These files all originated from the same one, so you can see, for example, if I delete this one and choose to extract from the zip, it will result in the same file, only it's no longer compressed and it occupies the same amount of space as the original. If I do the same thing for the file RAR or the 7-zip or the FP8, it will do the same thing. However, for the FP8, you will notice as I drag and drop it onto there, it takes quite some time to do. I'm not going to wait for this percentage to go all the way up because it takes quite a few minutes. And so I'm going to bring the FP8 back up out of this file, move it into pictures. FP8 is one of the programs that will work surprisingly well on picture data. Again, I'm going to choose to arrange things by size. Zip, again, is near the bottom, followed by 7-zip. Strangely, WinRAR will work surprisingly well on pictures, better than 7-zip will, but FP8 is still better than all of them. And you can see from the pictures themselves, these are fairly large files, and if I scroll to the right, you can see these files are fairly large as well. This one in particular is larger than any known monitor. This Kepler supernova taken from the nasa.gov website, which I will be demonstrating later because of its ridiculously large resolution. If I choose to display it at actual size, will enlarge to such an enormous amount of size that you can't actually see much of anything. And so, considering pictures and files, lastly, you can see that it can also be used to archive different types of songs. In this case, I have MP3s. I have a WAV file, different bit rates and sizes of MP3s. And again, when arranged by size, the zip is the largest of all of them. The songs, by far, are best compressed into an FP8. Actually, 7-zip looks as though it might compress songs a little bit better. You can see from the total size of the songs, it's only 56.8% compared to the zip and the RAR, and the songs, FP8, the 7-zip compresses things by the best percentage, but still not enough to actually warrant archiving them. Now, when files are archived, sometimes they may be damaged while they are in the archive state, or they may have been improperly archived. In such a case, when you archive something, and so for the case of this file .vpk, I'm going to choose to add to file.rar. It will add or create a new file.rar, not to be confused with this file1.rar. Once I'm done creating this, I will use a program that will evaluate the size and integrity of this finished file. So we have it here here, it's almost the same size as this file.1rar. This file 1 was created using the same program, but I told it to use a much higher compression ratio. So the last of the programs that I wanted to demonstrate is this Kana Checksum solution, or Kana Solutions Kana Checksum, which is a program that will allow you to evaluate files and have them give you basically an 8-digit estimate of the signature of that file. So if you were to download this, I have it again in the installer. And you'll notice that it extracted not to its own folder, but just the files itself, so I'm going to delete these and demonstrate that again, the extract to a folder of the same name. This one will run on its own, so you don't need to worry about adding it to the Windows registry or adding it to anything else to make it show up in the add or remove programs list. It will run perfectly fine on its own, and should you no longer need it, you can just delete the folder it's in. So here you can see that it will give you a list of file names and the value. You can choose to compare it against another file's value. And since I have the checkbox here with Integrate with Explorer, that just means that I can right-click on something else and be able to evaluate it that way. So I'm going to right-click on this one and go down to Kana Checksum, and I want to calculate a CRC32, which is one form of checksum. An MD5 is similar and it's a little bit more advanced, but for file or archival comparison, you don't need to worry too much about the MD5, because if you do so, it actually generates a much longer stream of unintelligible numbers and letters. So a CRC32 is a little bit more suffice. Now this is the file RAR. If I choose the file 1RAR, you can notice that it will come up with a different CRC32. So if I bring both of these together, you can see that one is a different value than the other. So this would be valuable if I needed to, say, evaluate the original CRC32 of the original. You can see it has this value 7B37A0EC, and so when I extract any of these, it should result in a file with that same value. And again, I right-click on it and go to CRC32. It calculates it, and it has the same value, so I can assume that it was archived correctly into the 7-zip form. So as far as archiving goes, that's all that we have.